just want to say that was very, very impressive what you did back there.
Thor, Love and Thunder, post-credit scenes explained. It is no secret that the post-credit scenes in Marvel movies are almost as important as the movies themselves. They offer some valuable insights as to where the story is going next, and Thor, Love and Thunder is no exception. After an exhilarating journey filled with emotions and humor, we finally get to the climax, with a rather satisfying, conventional, happy ending to please the fans. Then comes the two post-credit scenes that will leave the fans excited and offer some perspective around what's about to come. In this video, we will take you through the scenes, analyzing them in detail and exploring the possibilities that lie ahead. There might be a few spoilers along the way, so you have been warned. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Let's see who you are. I take off your disguise. And flick!
Zeus has vengeance on his mind. The mid-credits scene is probably the more interesting one in terms of the future of Thor, and it also adds perspective to something that we didn't have closure for in the movie. When Thor, Valkyrie, Korg and Jane Foster learn about the threat posed by Gorr the God Butcher, they realize the need to gather an army strong enough to match him and his shadow creatures. They travel to Omnipotent City, where the gods reside safely oblivious to the threats of the outside world. It is a safe zone, and non-god entities have no idea about the exact location. The group arrives to find various gods enjoying the safety and merriment on offer, and when Thor pleads with Zeus to help him fight Gorr, the latter seems least interested. He refuses to help, and he's clearly scared of the fact that Gorr has the Necro Sword, which can be fatal for gods. He even ignores the pleas to hand over his weapon, the Thunderbolt, to Thor so that it can help him fight Gorr. In reality, he is worried that the safety of the Omnipotent City would be compromised if Thor leaves and Gorr the God Butcher gets the better of him. Valkyrie, Jane and Korg join in a fierce battle, and after Korg is seriously injured and dismantled, an infuriated Thor uses Zeus's Thunderbolt to strike a hole in his heart. They get the desired weapon and leave the Omnipotent City to continue their fight, and Zeus is assumed to be dead. However, the mid-credits scene reveals that Zeus has recovered from his injuries. It's obviously taken a lot more than that to kill a god of his level. And now Zeus is determined to teach Thor a lesson. More importantly, he is bothered by the lack of devotion to the gods among mortals, and he believes the reason to be the rapid rise of the superheroes. In this scene, he orders Hercules to get even with Thor and instill the fear of gods among the mortals once again. We get a brief glimpse of Brett Goldstein as Hercules, and he seems to take his father's commands very seriously.
Valkyrie?
This is the best day of my life!
The future implications of this scene. It has been stated that Thor will return, although it hasn't really been specified whether they are talking about Chris Hemsworth or Natalie Portman. We believe that they both might be slated for a return in some form, but more importantly, Thor's next opponent is probably going to be the mighty Hercules. Now, facing the Titan would be no easy task for the God of Thunder, because their comic book rivalry has been iconic, to say the least. Their evenly matched battles have mostly been stalemates, with an occasional win for both Thor and Hercules. While it will be a mouth-watering contest by all means, there must be more to the story. Hercules is by no means an evil entity, and according to the comic books, neither is Zeus. Yes, his pride has been wounded and his inflated ego wants nothing but revenge, but there is a genuine possibility that Zeus would soon realize that Thor is not the real enemy. We are not ruling out the chance that there might be a greater evil in the frame of things, and Hercules and Thor might even get together to deal with it. That being said, we certainly expect some form of sparring between Thor and Hercules. Previously, we have seen the Avengers fighting among themselves, but eventually they all got together to fight the real threat. Similarly, after the rivalry between the two is settled, Thor and Hercules might just show some brotherly love-hate relationship blooming into the next era of MCU movies. If Marvel's recent trend of happy endings continues, this seems to be a more likely outcome than Hercules being the sole enemy for an entire movie. Post-credits. Jane heads to Valhalla. This is probably the only tragic touch in the otherwise blissful climax. The movie explored Jane's ability to wield Mjolnir in detail, but the reality is a bit too harsh. Jane was suffering from cancer, which seemed to have passed on genetically from her mother, who also died from the fatal disease. When she wielded the Mjolnir, she earned the strength and powers of Thor, but it also negated the effects of her chemotherapy and other cancer treatments. She was shown to be in the fourth stage of cancer, and things kept getting worse with each time that she picked up the hammer. In the final moments of the fight with Gore the God Butcher, Thor was at the receiving end, and Jane learned about his danger telepathically. Despite knowing the risks, she picked up the Mjolnir one last time and came to his aid. The plan worked, and Gore was finally convinced to choose love instead of chaos and violence. However, Jane died in the effort, and we saw her turn to gold dust just like it happened with Odin before. The post-credits scene confirmed our thoughts that she went to Valhalla as well. This is a palace of the honored dead, a heaven of sorts for the great warriors, and we saw her arriving at the gates of Valhalla clearly confused. Heimdall then welcomes her and thanks her for saving his son Axel. Reading between the lines, this is apparently a very peaceful and satisfying end for the character of Jane, but it is tough to imagine her being absent permanently from the MCU timeline. It has been established that those in Valhalla can oversee all that is happening in the universe, because this is how Heimdall kept track of everything. We haven't seen any instance of someone returning from Valhalla so far, but something as outrageous as this might also be on the cards. If not, then you can expect cameos from the likes of Heimdall and Jane because of their inability to participate or impact anything that is happening. Unlike the mid-credits scene, however, this one doesn't seem to have a clear consequence, and we have to wait and watch how things unfold.
I come here to raise an army. Today, we'll fight! I'm counting on that.
Marvelous verdict. Prepare yourself for a few surprises. While there might be several predictions around the mid-credits scene with Thor's possible rivalry with Hercules, the post-credits scene will keep the fans guessing. Heimdall's son, Axel, has taken over his powers, but there hasn't been a sufficient replacement for Jane. Yes, Thor is now raising Gore's daughter, Love, and she does have superpowers of her own, but it remains to be seen if she can substitute for Jane. If not, then we cannot rule out the possibility of her return in some capacity. Overall, the movie might not be taken seriously by many, but it was a fun and entertaining watch. Humor was plentiful, even though love clearly takes precedence over thunder and action in the movie. The post-credits, however, throw up some nice options for the MCU, and if handled correctly, Hercules vs. Thor could end up being a blockbuster. Do let us know in the comments below about your thoughts on the movie and what you make of the post-credits scene.
Am I, sensing feelings?